New data is out revealing that our economy increasingly relies on the wealthy when it comes to consumer spending. This is a report from Moody's Analytics, and it shows nearly 60% of consumer spending comes from the top 20% of earners. So what does that mean? Doug Flynn's here, co-founder, Flynn Zito Capital Management. I mentioned before the break K-shape. Now on the telestrator, I have the U.S. consumer spending by income group, and what we say, this is one of many ways to demonstrate the K-shape, but like just say it said this part of the K was here. One group's going up, the other group is going down, and that's kind of what it looks like, right? That it's 60-40 for the rich. What does it mean? What does it tell us?
Yeah, it says that the U.S. economy is doing great as long as you own stocks and don't need a job. That's basically what that's saying.
Oh, good.
And so it's clearly if you're in the upper echelon of income, that typically means you also have assets, and so those assets have appreciated. But it's the people in the middle that, or the lower end that don't have that, and so they're not participating. And so while the wealthy benefit from that rise in asset prices, and so that's the wealth effect, they can spend more, that isn't happening at the lower end. And so those people are struggling, and that's part of the issue. And so they're much more susceptible to the labor market and inflation, and that's why sentiment is where it is. It's sort of that bifurcation that's happening there.
So it's an ongoing, we have a lot of conversations in the news that we have repeatedly, like if you do it for a while, you say, well, this came up again, this comes up. This has come up the whole time. That, as long as I've been doing it, I'm sure as long as you've been in wealth management business and all that kind of stuff, you've been talking about income inequality and how it's rich getting richer and poor getting poorer. So you wonder what's going to change it. And to me, what makes it, I guess, worse is I think there's more than one kind of wealth gap. It's not as simple as saying, oh, there's some rich people and some people that are quote unquote not rich. There's this other group that is like uber rich, right? That you talk about needs a job. Like you could say, like you're a well-off guy, right? Generally speaking, compared to the rest of the world. But you need to work, I assume, right? I mean, I know I'm in that category. I need to have a job, right? There are a bunch of people, and there's probably more and more of them that don't. And I just don't know what that means. But to me, there's some societal effect from that. These people walking around with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that affects all of this.
Yeah, I think so. So I have my acronym is, it's the 4 A's. It's acquire, appreciating, assets, ASAP. And that's the only way you're going to break this cycle, because here's why. If you go back 40 years ago and you look at, the young people, 40 to 45% of them don't even have $1,000. The average American, about 30 to 35% don't have $1,000. So how are you going to break it? You're not going to break it at the top end. What you got to do is you got to work on the lower end.
Raise
and my point in that is, my point in that is if you go back 40 years, do you know what the stock market is up over the last 40 years?
A lot.
In terms of, 50x. So real estate, houses have gone up 4x, but the percentage of people that, the 50%, the bottom 50% of the people that only own about 2% of the assets, they still only own about 2% of the assets. So how are they ever going to get out of it? The upper people are just getting richer and richer because the market itself, as evidenced by that, going up 50x in the last 40 years, that's going to continue to happen. So how do you do it? You got to get that $1,000 and get it into the market and get on the other side of it. That's the only way to do it. So hopefully we can lift some people up with that and get them more invested, and that's the way the way you're going to break the cycle.
We've talked about it, how this idea Trump has given all the babies $1,000 is not a bad idea, right?
That's a start.
That kind of thing.
That's a start.
Doug, thank you. Doug Flynn there as they ring the closing.